Howdy, it's Jim Morado, and this is a video I made back in 2015, and we were going to look at the Chincoteague Ponies. And this is something pretty cool. This is one of those things, if you're a road tripper and if you get around a lot, you know about this. Also, I think little kids know about the Chincoteague Ponies too. And we stopped here, I believe it was a September 2015, and we kind of incorporated this into a big old Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, Delaware road trip. I remember we stopped at one of our visits to Gettysburg was on this trip. We drove through. I was really into minor league baseball back then. I still like it. I'm not as obsessed with it as I used to be, but I remember driving through Delmarva and seeing the Delmarva Shorebirds Stadium, and just I remember that. And we stopped and did this cruise, kind of just a nice little boat cruise. I believe it was Daisy Cruises that did this trip with us. I want to say back in 2015, it was maybe $60 for the two of us to do this cruise. And I want to say too, it was probably a couple of hours maybe. It was a very nice cruise. It was very informative. Yeah, we just had a darn good time with this cruise. You know, I'm sure their prices have gone up a little bit since then and all, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. And you know, I'm not sure how they do business these days, but it's always good when you're dealing with people. I've found it's always good to ask if they have a cash discount. And I remember doing that a couple times on this trip. I can't remember if I did it with this tour company or not, but I just remember they were nice, friendly guys, and we just had a really, really good time with them.
Wow. Just watch out behind us. There's that little red boat, and he has no respect.
Oh, okay.
He's the one who...
You got his number, huh?
All right, I got it. As we come out here, you guys will see the Miss Brittany right here. You guys see that big boat with the big giant outriggers and all the nets and everything else? That's the Miss Brittany. I'll get out in everybody's way so you can kind of see it. All right. Does anybody know what that thing fishes for? Don't say fishing. It does fishing. Of course it fishes.
Crab.
What does it go for? Crab? What kind of crab? Blue crab? No, ma'am. Dungeness? I get all sorts of different. But at least you were on the right end with the crab. Yeah, well, I got a little piece of the shell here still left. Horseshoe crab. That's what that thing goes for there. You guys see that? Yeah. Does anybody know why? Yeah, the blood. So what they'll do is they have a catch and release program. And they catch them, they take them off to a lab, they harvest about a third of their blood, and then they re-release them. Why their blood? What's so important about it, right? Well, our blood is copper-based. Their blood is iron-based. The way our immune system works, what? Yeah, other way around. Ours is, yeah. Theirs is copper-based, ours is iron-based, yeah. I knew what I was getting at. Yeah, you heard me, yeah. That's terrible, right? Yeah, you know, it comes in, you start getting it. Yeah, ours is iron-based, theirs is copper-based. So theirs stays blue, a bright blue actually, all the time. Our immune system, it fights off disease by trying to kill it. Theirs fights off disease by encapsulating it and getting rid of it. So there's a bacteria, there's some sort of enzyme within their immune system, and I don't really know a whole lot about it, but I know that it'll coagulate, it'll gel up around this disease, whatever it might be, anything that tries to attack them. It'll gel up around it and then expel it. And because of those properties, they're using a lot of different drug trials. With cancer research, they're hoping that it'll surround cancer cells to prevent them from spreading. Now that doesn't mean it's going to stop or kill the cancer, and our body is definitely not built to just expel it by any means, but if they can contain it, then they can maybe treat it better. That's one of the uses I know it's used for. I'm sure there's all sorts of other things when it comes down to immune deficiencies and everything else that they use it for. But their blood goes for approximately $1,200 for an ounce. That's a lot of money, right? Hence a boat that's dedicated to do nothing but horseshoe crab. That's all they do. Only thing they fish for. It's pretty crazy. And off to our side here, there's an island for sale if anybody wants it. $450,000. It's a steal, it's a bargain really, if you think about it. It's 42 acres of land, as it stands right now. We'll watch this house as we come up past it. Just keep your eyes on it here. Now this island, you know, it's nice. It's got all the features you need. It's got a house. You can have clams, oysters. You can duck hunt right from your front window. You can fish pretty much out your kitchen window, so you wouldn't have to actually get anything dirty, you know, just bring it right on in, you know, fillet them and fry them right there. I think it's a worthwhile investment, personally. Now, Sandy back there, she believes that this is a short-term investment. Is that how you put it? I believe it's a long-term investment. Right now, and some of you might be able to see it, you'll see that that house is surrounded by water. Right? Yes, right now it is surrounded by water. Yes, a few years ago it was not surrounded by water. That's correct. Straight ahead of us, you guys can probably, right on the horizon, you can just see the beach, right? Everybody see that all the way down there? You guys welcome to stand up just a little bit so you can take a quick peek if you need to. But straight down there on the horizon is the beach. Now all the way down to the right, on the horizon, you can see a black pole way down there on the horizon. Can everybody see that? Down there on the horizon. Black pole way down here. Everybody got it right now? It's kind of right off our border in this moment. That black pole used to be end of island. The beach that you're currently looking at is what's washed away. We've lost like a mile of beach, give or take. So a lot of people are worried about our beach washing away and the end of Astig and all this other stuff, and people think, oh, it's gonna just, everything's just gonna keep washing away. I don't believe that though, because directly ahead of us, you can see where all those boats are gathered together. That's a sandbar. Everybody see that just off to our left, just a little bit ahead? That's called the sandbar, right? Specifically the sandbar, because it's a favorite place for people to go to. That sandbar really didn't exist 10 years ago. So it's all relatively new stuff right there. What's happened is as that beach washes away, it's filling in acetate. That lighthouse way down there, you can just now see, that lighthouse was built in 1867. The original was built in 1833. When they built the original lighthouse, that was pretty much the end of the island. So think about the fact that that was the end of the island, and this much of the island grew. So now it's receding. It's really not receding. It's just kind of folding in on itself. Which leads me back to the island here. If it continues its trend, eventually this island will be even more protected, which means it'll be even bigger, which means you'll what you buy now, 42 acres, you can turn around and sell it 80 acres maybe. It might be like 25, 30 years, but it's a worthwhile investment, I think. Better than the stock market, right? Leave it for think about the kids, what you gotta think about, you know? Think about the kids. You gotta think about the future here. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and turn it inwards. We're gonna start heading on up.
All right, and there was, I didn't catch that fella's name, but yeah, he was with, obviously, the Daisy Cruise Company, and he offered a whole lot of narration on this trip, and we'll try to listen up on him as we can. You'll have to forgive me, again, I made this video for my own enjoyment. I didn't think I would ever put it anywhere or do anything with it. So, some of the camera work is, well, there you go. You can see my camera work. Forgive me for that. Yeah, and some of the audio, the wind starts blowing and you can't hear some stuff. That's why I'm talking right now, because the wind's going crazy right now, and you can't understand much of what's being said. Yeah, the Daisy Cruise people, I could hear it really good on the cruise, but when that wind hits the microphone, it just creates chaos. But yeah, this was just a great trip, and we're going out. You know, we went by the lighthouse, the famous lighthouse, and we're going out to see some of the ponies right now, and we'll get to that towards the end of the video. But it gets a little confusing here because there's the Chincoteague Ponies, and they're on Chincoteague Island, and man, I don't know if we were in Virginia or Maryland at different times. You're kind of zigzagging back and forth in this neck of the woods. So it does get confusing. But this was just such a pretty day. We drove down to the Chincoteague area. It is a national, is it seashore? It's part of it's managed by the National Park Service, and I think to get to the actual park beach part, I think it was like $8 or something like that for us to go there. It was reasonable, and as our narrator will mention a little bit later, it was a very crowded day. This was Labor Day weekend, now that I think about it, and they had a good crowd. And you'll probably notice in the video, if I tilt towards the other people on the boat, there were some kids. Man, that deer stand does not look very effective. Actually, that's not a deer stand, that's for duck hunters, and I believe our boat captain explains that a little bit later. But I thought, what's that deer stand doing out here? Yeah, there's the lighthouse again. I love that lighthouse. Yeah, but the kids on this cruise, and some of the adults too, man, people go crazy over wild horses. It's pretty cool though. I mean, it's just, you had the kids kind of running up towards the front, and they wouldn't sit down when you told them to. They were just being kids, but they were just so excited about the horses. And when you see them, you'll realize they're worth getting excited about. They do have their short little horses. They're called ponies. People call them ponies popularly, but they're little horses, and they have, not to make fun of them, but they do have little bellies. Yeah, our friend here with the Daisy Cruises will talk a little bit about that. It has to do with the salt water that they're drinking. And yeah, I won't get too into the history of the ponies or any of that, because again, the good people at Daisy Cruises will get into that for us. But yeah, they're just interesting. They're wild ponies. They're out here, and they're famous, and they're kind of a big deal. And when you see them, it's justified. They're beautiful. I mean, they are really special. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit more here in a moment.
This is the beach bridge. It looks like traffic finally opened up, but earlier today it was stopped dead when we were driving by here earlier.
Right? We came over this bridge and we were kids.
That may have been a part of the fire truck that were over there, but I think it's just the way it happens. It's Labor Day.
Nice day.
Yeah, nice day, good day to be out on the beach, and people are taking advantage of that. So they come out here, and it's funny, everybody wants to come to the beach at the same time, and everybody wants to leave the beach at the same time. So what I always say is go early, leave early, or go late and leave late. So, but if you see a bunch of people getting in their cars, just sit back and relax, because otherwise you're going to be in your car for about 2 hours anyway. So you might as well enjoy the beach for a little bit longer. How deep is it? Right here? We're in about probably 10 feet or so right now, 15 feet. So it's not deep anywhere. It's not extremely deep. No, not once you're on the other side of the bridge here, it's nothing but shallow. There's a couple holes, like good fishing holes, but other than that, shallow water. What's your draft gun? Right for us? We can, with the engines all the way down like we are right now, it's about 26, 27 inches. Yeah. Once we trim them up all the way, we need to move slower, or we move faster, or whatever, we get into approximately 18 inches of water. Anywhere. Pretty much anywhere. I'd have to really mess up, or she'd have to really mess up to get us stuck. These are sweet. These? Yeah. Oh yeah, they're quiet, aren't they? They're brokers. These are 275. It's got lots of power. Yeah. We're not trying to go fast. We're going probably.
Yeah, just a couple of things I remembered from this day. We got there. I think our cruise was around 12:30, and we got there a little bit early, and the good people with Daisy Cruises suggested there was like a general store down the road. Not a lot of places there's not a McDonald's out here, at least there wasn't back in 2015, and they recommended a little general store down the road, and we got some chips and drinks and a couple of really nice subs. I think they made the subs right up there for us, and it was great. And I think it was like $20 for the two of us. It was real reasonable, and just a really pretty area. Yeah, as you can see, we're coming up on some horses right now. Again, sorry about the camera work and the audio. But yeah, I'm also kind of happy with it too. I mean, even though it's not perfect, I think I kind of captured the experience here. So yeah.
We're gonna pull right on up. We're gonna get pretty. We call this the bow of the beach. These poles right here represent a fence that actually keeps the horses in. We started fencing off our horses a few years ago to protect them from the people, pretty much. People were feeding them McDonald's, and they were trying to put their kids on their back to take pictures. Does anybody know what's going on in Yellowstone right now? The bison attacks. Bison, yeah. People are trying to take selfies with these bison, which are big giant buffalo-like creatures with horns, and so they're getting gouged. And then they're trying to sue because they get attacked by a wild animal. Well, you don't turn your back and flash it in its eyes.
And just real quick, a couple things I remembered about this trip too. This was kind of our first time in this area, and we ended up going up into Pennsylvania. We went to Lancaster, which is a really nice little city, home of James Buchanan, very interesting president if you're into presidents. And we stayed at the Steamboat Inn, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a steamboat hotel, and that was kind of cool. I just remember that off the top of my head. Really nice place. And they had a floor if you had kids, and they had a floor if you didn't have kids. And we don't have kids, so it was kind of nice to be on a very, very quiet floor. I liked what they were doing. And they also had free postcards, and I just thought that was really cool. Lancaster, yeah, also home of one of my favorite bands of all time, the Innocence Mission. If you like girl singers, female singers, and kind of alternative folk bands, you could almost call it not Christian rock, maybe Catholic rock at times. So, but yeah, Lancaster was a neat area. We went there after that, and then we went on up to Gettysburg. But this was just a really neat trip. And as we're looking, kind of looking towards the horses and stuff, I just really enjoyed, the sky and the water. Look how great that is. I also wanted to say I'm going to let the narrator end us out on the video because he's got a lot of good information.
All right. Now you're all welcome to get up now and take pictures of the boat. We actually had a nice soft landing there. Now we're going to have to keep the boat engaged, and we'll try to keep as good a view as we can to everything. But you're welcome to move about the boat, get the best pictures you possibly can. Walk to the front, walk to the right, whatever you need to do.
Yeah, these guys really did a good job of getting us up close with the horses and stuff, and I love the coloring on these guys. I paint toy soldiers, mostly Civil War era, and I do some on mounted. I love the coloring on these guys. I'm gonna have to try to use some of these, the color pattern at least, on some of the horses I paint. I love that little blonde and whites. I just think he's great. But yeah, they just have some great colors on them, and I just enjoyed looking at them. They're awesome.
There are skimmer friends.
They followed us all the way up here. Look at the skimmers. You see these birds are right off to the right. You'll see him. Look, he dropped his beak down right there. Watch him drop. Boom.
These ponies don't have such huge bellies, do they?
Well, it depends on the season sometimes too for that. They've had a lot of fresh water. They're doing pretty good. During the winter time, you'll definitely see them blow up a little bit more. It seems like they store more fat, plus their fur's a little bit different. But you'll see all these ponies look a little bit fat, kind of, right? A little bit round. They're not nearly as round as they are, like I said, winter time or early spring. It seems like, of course, you got a lot of pregnant ponies in the early spring. But they're big, not necessarily because they're pregnant, but because they retain water. Right? As they drink the salt water, it causes them to have that water retention, all that salt. They live off the salt grass, which is all this grass all around here. Right? It's all salt grass, all salt marsh. So they live off this salty stuff. It just causes them to bloat up. Just like if we had too much salt in our diet, we'd bloat up too. Same thing. Pretty incredible, all right? Look at this guy sitting with that big old blaze on his face there. And you can see that they're kind of drinking the salt water. Now, they don't live off the salt water. They live off fresh water that's out here on the islands. Lots of little ponds for them, or little fresh water tanks.
Go out.
come back in. Yeah, get another angle. Yeah. Trim it up a little bit. Yeah. Does anybody know how these ponies got here? You're not allowed to answer this. Anybody have any guesses how they got here? Has anybody read Misty of Chincoteague?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've read Misty of Chincoteague? Alright, how did it say that the ponies got here according to Misty? A Spanish galleon crash, you're right. And they swam, what was the name of the pony that swam to land? Or that led them off? Well, that was before that. Yeah. It was like the 1600s. Do you remember the one that broke him free? His name is Phantom. Everybody calls he's like the Phantom pony, right? The Phantom, yeah? Well, he saved them all. He's the protector. He's the guy who saves all the ponies, right? He's the man. As far as the Misty story goes and the Spanish galleon, I don't know how much I believe that. There is a Spanish galleon offshore for sure, without a doubt. We know there's a Spanish galleon. Now, whether or not it had ponies and all this other stuff, that's a different story. We don't really know for sure. We don't know. There's a lot of other wrecks all around this area, and it's potential that those wrecks, well, they could be Spanish galleons. We don't know. We haven't had it's murky water. It's kind of sandy. We don't know if there's, if they could have been Spanish galleons or not. Very popular belief is that they were pirates. What would happen is that pirates would raid ships, or they'd raid towns, they'd take whatever they could. Well, when they were taking everything they could, they would take horses too. But you couldn't just sell a horse that you stole because they had brands on them. And the brands would mark them out. So what they would do is they would turn them loose and they put them out on little islands like this and they let them breed. Let them, have their little babies and then they would sell their babies. Smart. Babies aren't born with brands, Smart way to avoid things. So there's potential there for sure. We definitely have pirates in this area. We're about a day's sail away from the Chesapeake. So we're not very far away from the Chesapeake by any means. So it's very possible that could have been the case, maybe. The other big theory is, of course, just town folk. This is not nearly as romantic or as cool, but what would happen is that town people, to avoid taxes, they would turn loose their livestock. Yes, ma'am? This hay thing here, that's actually a duck blinds for duck hunters, and they'll hide their boat inside of there. And they'll wait for duck to fly over. And then they catch them. It's big, right? So the town folk, what they would do is they would they turn loose cows, sheep, pigs, horses, you name it. They put it out here on islands like this. Smart place to do it, right? Taxman would come around, he'd count the head of your cattle, your sheep, your pig, whatever it might be, and whatever you had is what you get taxed on. Well, if they're out on islands like this, you can't get taxed on them. The other thing is, after the Revolutionary War, it became a law that you had to fence in livestock. Well, islands are a natural fence, so you don't have to maintain nearly the amount of fencing that you would have had to maintain otherwise, which is kind of smart on their part. And then food. They can live off the sawgrass. There's all sorts of grazing area for them to go to. So now you don't have to feed them either. You're saving even more money. So the few that you might lose to the weather probably makes up for the difference in cost that for putting them out here. I think it's smart anyways. My personal theory, which everybody hates, I think they're Shetland ponies. But that's me. In 1561, correct? You know about Veracruz. Veracruz? We had a Spanish explorer come through this area here in the 1500s. Late 1500s, 1560s. And his, what he ended up finding, or what he wrote, was that he found ponies so small, a grown man could sit on them and his feet would touch the ground. Which leads to my theory. But that's the only thing, that's the only evidence I have. I don't have anything else yet. Give me time. In Martha's Vineyard, they just found a rune stone that predates 1400, so.
They just found what?
A rune stone. Yeah, like a little marker from the, the Vikings and stuff, so. Yeah.
Where in the vineyard, do you know?
Where in the vineyard? I don't know. I just know I read an article about it about probably like 3 months ago or so about this old runestone. You'll have to Google it.
I'll have to Google it now.
That's what I do. I Google everything.
That's what we.
Anytime somebody tells me something, I'm like, really? That's awesome. Let me Google that. I'll put it in my facts. The problem is when somebody actually wrote an article about the end of truth. Because now you can Google everything, so you can write anything you want, and then you can prove anybody wrong. So there is no truth. Right? Everything's the truth. Yeah, just slower. That's anytime I tell you guys something, I actually add it to Wikipedia. I'm like, oh yeah, I've had debates with, or I should say, I hear a lot of debates between horse trainers. Some horse trainers love them. They're really, really good starter horses. They don't take a lot of maintenance. So if you're trying to teach somebody the ins and outs and the basics of horsemanship, they're a great horse to start on. Because if you don't treat them perfect, it doesn't matter. They're okay. You don't have to feed them the perfect amount of food. You don't have to feed them, the high grain stuff. You don't have to, yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, you can just, you don't have to brush them every day because they're used to living out here in the wild. You don't have to blanket them so much in the winter time because they already lived through the winter. They get a nice thick winter coat on. So as far as ease of maintenance and ease of use, they're technically they're like the John Deere, they're a nice little tractor. They just keep on going. So they're really, really good horses for that. But other horse trainers say the problem is that because they're so wild, it's hard to get them good for children, but they do. A lot of children do end up riding them. In fact, there's a place on the island, the Pony Center. They use Chincoteague Ponies, and they do train the ponies. They have the girls ride the Chincoteague Ponies, and they use an English style saddle to ride, and they do all sorts of neat little tricks and everything else. So it's pretty. They're definitely trainable, good horses. Now, do I want to ride one? I don't know. It depends. They can actually hold a big man like me, about 225 pounds. I could ride one all day long, and it wouldn't really wear it down. Now, I wouldn't say I'd ride across country or ride it hard, but if I was just going for a walk or a hike with it, let's say, it could hold me all day.
Are they ponies or horses?
He's coming up. They're at the high side of the pond.
Anybody else have any other questions about them?
Are they a separate?
We're going to go back to the swim area.
What's the purpose of the big? Are they a
What's the average price?
No. What's the purpose of the big drive that you guys do every year for the ponies?
To get them for the auction. So what we'll do, the big drive, the roundup we do, the pony swim, the reason we do that, we get them all together, is so we can sell off those